Welcome to Between Over and Next with your hosts, Holly and Robert, a happily married couple who explore the space between what was, what is, and what's to come. From career changes to navigating life's uncertainties, this dynamic duo will empower you to live your happiest life at every age and stage. So, get ready because your journey with Holly and Robert starts now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Between Over and Next. Hi, Holly.
Hi, Robert. I loved that you took me on a date to see the musical Chasing Tornadoes.
Yes. Was it on Broadway?
No, it was in a local theater.
Yes.
But it was about two people that lived in our towns, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And their friendship is unique. And more importantly, I think it's cool why we went to go see Chasing Tornadoes.
Well, it's a long and winding road that we travel down in life. And I met Jane and her family back in 1986, 87, when I was living in Bayonne, and they were in Bayonne, I believe, and we got connected through this talent agency on Broadway in Bayonne with this real character, and then I ended up working with her for her parents' anniversary party, in videotaping it and creating a montage for them, and then down the line, I videotaped her sister Lori's wedding to Mark, whose brother is on the show today because Jane and Rob are together. Rob is Mark's brother. We have remained in contact throughout all of these years, and Jane was part of our Can of Pop-Up events with her non-for-profit. She works with Animal Rescue. Jane's also a very talented photographer. So it came about that we heard about this show, Chasing Tornadoes, that was being done locally by two local people, Rob from Livingston, Robin from Florham Park, which is where we live now. Another not coincidence. We decided to spend an evening and go check out the show, literally almost walking distance from where we live, which is always fantastic, and knew immediately that the story of their lives personally and professionally was exactly what we talk about each and every week here on Between Over and Next.
The show, Chasing Tornadoes, parallels the lives of two friends, Rob Forsari and Robin DeLore, who have music in common and have taken some different paths. And they share that story on the stage in a beautiful way. Rob is a pianist and Robin is a singer, and they are incredibly talented. And overall, it's a story of self-exploration, about the twists and turns of life, and how the choices we make help define us. And not only do they define us, they really do not determine our future, which is really what you're going to learn through their story, which is inspired by The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
The key things in Wizard of Oz is courage, heart, and wisdom. And they did find out what matters most. So I'm really looking forward to hearing and learning more about Rob and Robin's journey. Hi, Rob and Robin.
Hi.
We are so happy you're here today.
Yes,
Thanks
we're
for having
really
us.
excited
Thanks for
about
having
this.
us.
We loved Chasing Tornadoes.
Oh,
And
thanks for coming.
well,
It was fun. How could we not? It's only about 60 seconds from here.
so let's talk about the inspiration behind your amazing show, Chasing Tornadoes. What inspired you both to create it? And how did The Wonderful Wizard of Oz influence the narrative of your musical journey?
I always say that when something great happens, there's always a starting point, right? And for us, the starting point was The Wizard of Oz, but it was spiritual in a way because my cousin, a few weeks prior to me calling Rob, we had done this exercise. He asked me Who is your Tin Man? Who is your Scarecrow? Who is Dorothy? All the characters that you encounter along the yellow brick road. And I thought it was so intriguing. But then the craziest part about it is when I spoke with Rob about doing a show, he came back with this idea of the Wizard of Oz, and he didn't even know I had that exercise with my cousin.
Well, you know what I'm going to say,
I called him up
Holly?
and I said,
no coincidences.
right. I called my
coincidence.
cousin up. I said, you're never going to believe this.
So, Rob, what were your thoughts about The Wizard of Oz?
That movie is such an important part in all our lives. It's like one of the first movies you see as a kid. When you think back on the movie now, today, it's got so many layers and so many different meanings, and you could take so much from it still. It's like one of those fairy tales that just lives forever. Each time you watch it, you get something different. Like the last time I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, why is Dorothy singing Over the Rainbow so soon in the movie? And then I had to really rethink what that meant to her, that song, and why it was appearing at that place in the movie.
Yeah.
The song had such a great part in my life with my father, who, when he was sick, I used to play that for him on the piano. He'd sit on the couch and I'd play it for him like almost every day. So it became like our family song. I think a lot of families probably have that kind of same thing with the Over the Rainbow. So when Robin had reached out about doing a show, it made sense in that way. It fit so perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I also think there's an added layer, and that's the significance of home.
100%.
Rob, you grew up in Livingston.
Yes.
Robin, you grew up in Florham Park.
Neighboring towns,
Yeah.
Neighboring
for
towns.
those not from the area.
So talk about the significance of the theme of home, both in The Wizard of Oz and your lives.
Home is something I've actually struggled with, ironically enough, in my life. I decided to stop producing and writing songs. I struggled with coming home. I was in LA for many years. I was in New York for many years. And I felt like coming home was almost like a letdown, like a failure of sorts. It was a crazy way of thinking, but to me, it just meant kind of going back with my tail between my legs, so to speak, like I failed. And I hadn't failed, but I thought now I'm going to live back where I started. And I needed to find some inner peace with that. Because I was thinking of home, it's not a physical place. It's a spiritual place. It's in your heart. It's in your whole being. The show actually helped me to discover that. Home has nothing to do with where I stand. It's where my spirit is, where my energy is. And I started to feel, you know what, it's okay to be here. It's okay to be anywhere. Because anywhere I am is home, anywhere I want to be. And then we had written a song called Home. It all just kind of made sense. Home is everything. It's you. Home is you. Right. It's got so many layers, home.
Well, what does Livingston mean to you?
Livingston is so important to me because it's where I really planted myself, in that physical being. And look, you can never get away from it. You go somewhere, you live somewhere, but something about where you grew up just always feels like, oh, I'm here. You can kind of like, your shoulders can relax and you can breathe.
Yeah.
I think we all have that, no matter where it is. And it's nice to have that place of just, I can sit back.
Right. That familiarity,
yes,
that where you kind of lock in.
100%.
Again, you see some familiar faces,
and look,
familiar places.
100%. My biggest work was done here in Livingston. So it's like, how can I not have a love for it?
Right.
Well, what does that mean to you, Robin?
My family came over from Italy, and they plopped right down here, right down the street in Florham Park. My father was a cop here. My uncles were cops. Everybody is home here. And I always say, too, seeds can blow anywhere, and they can plant their own trees any which way. But my home is here. My whole being is here. It's just so important that my roots that have stayed in Florham Park for almost 50 years, I draw strength from that comfort. I love, love, love to travel, but this is my home, and this is where I find my peace.
And the two of you met locally, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just share a little bit about when you first met.
I was in college, and I was looking for something to make a little extra money. I saw a flyer on the wall in the music hall, and it said, looking for a piano player. Now, I wasn't great at transposing music, so I was like, maybe that's not for me because it wanted accompanist for singers. But I took one of the tabs, and I'm like, yeah, maybe. And so so I called, and the woman who was the teacher, Marilyn Milliken, she invited me in. I'll never forget it. I sat in the car that day, and I said to myself, I don't think I could do this. I was debating if I should go in or not. Thank God I went in, and I got the job. So I started playing as the accompanist for this vocal teacher.
This
And
poor guy had to play in every key.
That's a
oh
tough
my
gig.
God.
Oh my God.
I could sight read, but I'm not that good at sight reading. So you got to read the music on the spot. And the people would just be like, here, play this. And there were a lot of good singers there, but one day Robin walked in, and what I heard was, it was reminiscent of like Connie Francis. She had this cry in her voice, which my family grew up with Connie Francis all the time. So when I heard her, it resonated. She's like a young Connie Francis, I thought, because she has that cry, and none of the other students had that. So right away, I gravitated to Robin. And I'm like, I need her for my songs.
And you were how old at the time?
I was 21, 22.
And Robin?
13.
Wow. So you had a between over and next moment from you being the accompanist
Yes.
to nurturing a friendship with Robin. So just fill in that blank.
Not only the friendship, but musically, because I was older than her. I was kind of thrown to the ropes in terms of making records. I don't think she had made, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, made a record before. We were making records in my mom's basement. So it was like a friendship was developing, and that wasn't the main purpose of initially of the relationship, but it developed because we just stayed.
Well, I got older too,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
You
And she
know,
started driving over.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's a friendship. It's a big brother, little sister type of thing. He taught me so much, and he spoiled me because it would be decades of me recording and never, ever achieving that synergy with anybody else. I mean, he's the best. He's the absolute best.
Word.
You taught me so much, and
So
nobody
what are-
ever did that.
What are a few of those lessons?
He taught me the art of recording, and he taught me to use all of the nuances in my sound. And I took that with me live, and it especially helped me in the world of jazz. I didn't know what he heard in my voice. I didn't know why he asked me to start recording. I didn't know at 13 I had a cry in my voice, but then I started to learn, oh, I've got this breathy sound, and he likes this. And then I incorporated all of that knowledge into my live performances, and it's because of him.
Do you remember when you first started to realize that, when there was that change from the little girl who was just singing at the music lesson to when it really started to click for you? Because 13 is young.
A curse and a blessing at the same time is at 13 years old, a few years later, I had to stop with that voice teacher because she was allowing me to hurt myself. A lot of girls start out singing in my generation with The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow. And Marvin Hamlish wrote a wonderful score, but it wasn't always very healthy for young girls because their vocal cords were not mature yet. So at 13 years old, I got nodules on my vocal cords, and once you get them, you're prone to them. But it gave me that breathy sound, which is a blessing. Anyway, I go from Marilyn's basement studio to studying with one of the world's top voice teachers ever. His name is Bill Riley, and he taught me the mechanics of my instrument. As I was studying that, it was classical. So I'm doing classical music and learning all of the mechanics of singing, and then I'm getting to record with him. So he's teaching me all of the ways to bring out all of the nuances in the sound. And I realized it at a very early age because when he'd press play after he recorded me, I would think, wow, that's me. I used that in every which way.
So, Rob, what is your background to have such an expertise in this world of music? What led you to becoming a musician?
It's a great question. And when I started, I couldn't get anybody to work with me. The first person that would work with me was this guy who was in town, Erwin Levine, and he was a hit songwriter. So that was my first kind of, it wasn't a break, but it was my first big relationship break with a co-writer. So Erwin kind of took me under his wing, and I would write song after song with Erwin, and he really taught me the art of songwriting. But the vocal thing came from a guy I worked with named Josh Thompson. Josh Thompson was a vocal producer. So he would get into every breath, like the breaths in between the phrases. So think about that. Singer sings a line and then they breathe. And we would have to sometimes fix the breath in between the line. So there were days I'd be like, Josh, you got to be kidding me. We've been here 30 minutes on a breath. He's like, hey, this is how we do it. I was new and he had some hit songs. So
Trust the process. Trust
yes,
the process.
yes. And let me tell you, when we would do a vocal and you would play it back, it was so tight and it would just breathe the right way and it formulated the chorus of the song. It was amazing. After that, I just always kind of produced vocals that way. It's interesting because singers want to sing, right? People ask me, why aren't more of the artists on American Idol or The Voice, big stars? And I say it's simple because it's not just about singing. If every great singer, had hit records, they'd all be having hit records.
Right.
Right? There's something else. There's something about the intimacy of a vocal. There's something about the connection to the song and the singer. And you have to kind of sometimes dumb stuff down. You have to kind of make it simple for people. It's great that you could sing those notes, but, do it one time in the song.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up something that I think is probably really prevalent in show business in general, right? Is the difficulty to even get somebody to listen or
Yeah.
to see. That was a number of years ago. Is it easier now? That with so much on the internet and people being able to post what they do, the days of sending in a reel, right?
Right.
Almost non-existent.
Yes. It is easier, but it's harder, if that makes sense. It's easier to post something up, right? But who's listening when the saturation is beyond saturation? The numbers of posts per minute are astounding. It's like in the millions. So how do you find something in the millions, people posting a million something per minute, a million tweets or Instagrams? It gets lost. So how do you break through? That's the social media question. So yes, it's easier to say, I could put myself out there, but it's harder to have somebody notice. And look, even if they do notice and you're on American Idol, do they really notice? They notice for a second, and then they're on to the next thing.
Right, because all of those people are not superstars.
Right.
I mean, some are.
Some,
and
right.
We have them, and they become part of our lives, right, from that. But there are so many more that
But we have to
never
admit
got
that
on.
our attention span today is zero.
of
It's
course.
almost like zero. Because
Yeah.
there's so much to look at, so much to see, so much to hear. It's hard.
How old were you when you started playing piano?
I was around 8, 9 years old when I started playing, and a family friend had come over and played on the piano that my mother had. And it was like a lightning bolt hit me when I heard him play that day. And I stood there at the edge of the room watching this kid, Chris Robbins, I still remember his name. I'm like, I just found it. I found it. It's here. It arrived. Because the piano was sitting there for years,
I
right?
was just going to say that. The piano's
But
been
nobody
there.
touched it.
No one touched it.
Yeah, piano, piano.
Yeah.
Nobody. But then
Furniture.
that day, I heard him play. It was like a Beethoven piece. I'm like, there it is.
I'd love you to reflect on your journeys a little bit. Share your perspectives on friendship, happiness, fame, fulfillment. How have they evolved when you first started to where you are now?
When I think about this question, I think about how when you're young, you have these dreams. And back then, my measure of success would have been, I'm going to be on Broadway. My measure of success is different now. It's this yearning for living in the moment, practicing gratitude, having total inner peace. That's what success is to me. I will let you know when I get there because it's a constant journey. But that to me is the brass ring. I don't believe that combining the word success with one specific job or role is what I feel like it is at this point anymore. But with that being said, it's always important to reach for the top of that mountain. And so I'll never stop doing that. But I think my definition of success is a little more inward.
Rob, you work with some of the biggest names in the industry, the music industry. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on
Another-
success then and now?
Another great question. And I have to admit that I had it all wrong. What I thought success and friendship and all of it were to me in my 20s, I had it wrong. I really believe that success in terms of a hit record, money, would make me whole, would make me that person I always longed to be. My personality would come alive. My confidence, everything would just fall into place. And that is not how it works. It actually went the other way. I became more inward. I became angrier. And I remember sitting in my car hearing No, No, No on the radio and remembering that being one of the best moments of my life, but one of the worst, because I knew that I was now addicted to this feeling instantly. Like, how do I not have songs on the radio? I need this all the time.
Fill in the blank regarding your Grammy Award moments and the artists that you work with so everyone has perspective in the talent that you've been involved with.
I was writing songs for years, and it was getting to the point where it's almost pathetic, because now I was mid-20s, and I still had nothing. I would go to record labels, all the time trying to sell songs. And everybody was just like, I don't really hear anything. I had a neighbor who lived in the back, Sandy Linzer, who's a huge songwriter for Frankie Valli and a lot of stars. I went to him one day, and he was like, I don't think you have it. I was like, oh. I was crushed. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep going. You know, and one of the final straws was like I went to a record label meeting. I came out, my car was towed, got the car out of the lot, going through the Lincoln Tunnel, the car broke down. Somebody had to push me out. And I came out of the other side of the tunnel into New Jersey, back to New Jersey. I said, that's it. It's over. Done. And of course, I woke up the next morning like, I'm not done.
What would you have done?
That's a great question.
No, I mean, like, what job would you do?
Exactly. I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't tell you. So I kept going. And then I caught a break. You have to have some sort of break, some stroke of luck. It's when the preparation meets that opportunity. And a person in the industry happened to show up at my house with another friend who's coming. And on the computer that day was no. It was up on the computer. And I was going through my files, and I kid you not, I was thinking about erasing it. This song doesn't have any melody. I'm like, this is garbage. When he came in, he's like, well, what are you working on? Back then, the Macintosh was really slow. So for me to call up another track, would have taken me like 15 minutes. You know, I think I had to go like changes on the mixing console, and I'm like, I'll just play this one.
Right.
So I hit play. I'm like kind of looking down like this, and I'm giving him that look. And he's like, dude, that's a hit song. I'm like, what? And he's probably just saying that to make me feel good, right? He's like, can I get a copy? I gave him a cassette at the time. He takes the cassette. Later that night, he calls me. He's like, we're recording the song on this new group on Sony. I'm like, come on with this. What are you selling me here? How much do I got to pay? Like, is it like a scam going on? He's like, no, on the way to your house are the DA88 machines, the digital machines that you have to record the music to. I'm like, I don't know how to use it. Like, and the 18-wheeler pulls up in my mother's driveway. He starts unloading all this equipment into the basement. So here I am trying to figure out the right. I get it tracked, they call it, right, or the instruments on each track, you know, each tape, and I head over to the studio to start putting it all together. It was unbelievable, and that was it. And from there, it took off. So to get back to answer your question, I got none of what I thought I would get when I had some success. I was willing to give up my friends because I thought that's what it would take. All my relationships just kind of withered away because I thought that's what I had to do. And circling back, I realized years later that that's not what you have to do. There's a balance in it all. Right. I didn't find it, right? At least now I know that that's what it is. You don't have to give up everything. You could have love. You could have family. I didn't think you could. So I kind of went on this journey alone in a selfish kind of way. Right. And I regret it because I didn't really share it with anybody. I wanted it to be just me because I'm like, I waited my whole life for this. I'm like, this is just going to be me. But that's what's so different about Chasing Tornadoes is I don't want it to be just me anymore. Now I want this to be everyone. I want everyone to feel the same thing from this.
That's evident. You're sharing. It is. I'm sure everybody wants to know the groups you work with because you told us Destiny's Child, Lady Gaga. I personally want to know, what is it really like behind the music scenes?
Well, I'll tell you this, and this is one of the stories I should tell on the show, is like one of the best sessions, no, not one, the best session I had. And it's so disappointing of what happened to him in the media. Will Smith, I think about him so often because he was the nicest guy and the funniest person, this energy to be around him. I just wanted to be around him all day. And we would go to lunch. And one day at lunch, the guy who played Carlton on the show, Fresh Prince, came and they're bickering. I'm like, oh my God, this is how I feel. I'm like, is there a camera here? It was amazing. I was in a dream. I was at his home. Like, I was working at Will Smith's home, and Jada would walk by. And then on the flip side, and I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but I worked with Whitney, and not in her moment where she was having a lot of problems with the drugs. And that was one of the worst sessions. It was great to hear Whitney sing my song. That was, oh my God, I almost felt.
What song?
It's called Love That Man. It was the #1 dance song in the States. I'll never forget the session. There were 30 people in the room, and Bobby Brown is screaming to her through the soundproof glass. And I'm like, Bobby, she can't hear you. That's soundproof. And he's going, no, baby, you got to sing it like this. I'm like, what's going on right now? I'm the producer. You know? And I would say something to Whitney, and if Whitney didn't like it, she's like, don't tell me how to sing. I'm like,
oh, God.
Oh, boy.
Ooh, boy. But I got through it, right? We had a good record, and, it was good for that area. But I don't think that wasn't Whitney, right? That was the drugs and the mayhem.
Sure.
So that's not the fun part of the business. And at some point, I couldn't get the record done fully, so the label had to bring in Babyface because Babyface could kind of control her. They had a friendship and relationship. He can kind of get her a little more in line with the record. There's the moments of just pure joy, and then there's moments of, I tell the story of and look, I love Donna Summer, but it wasn't one of the greatest experiences I had. I wrote the song, and Donna Summer's watching me write the song, right, on the pad, and she's looking over my shoulder. I'm like,
that's not how you write.
Oh, yeah. And I finished writing the song, she goes, I have a song like that already. I'm like, did you want to say anything in the last 2 hours? So I'm like, Donna, why don't we pick it up tomorrow?
Well, these are impressive artists that you've worked
I mean,
with.
I've been very fortunate. I've been so lucky. I mean, I always say, I feel like it wasn't me. I feel like I was a puppet, just something else going on. Because you think about it, some of the records I did, like working with Bone Thugs and Harmony. And here I am in the studio with Bone Thugs and Harmony. Like it's like a hip hop. I'm like, oh, we want to try it again? What am I supposed to say? They're not going to respect me. This guy from like the suburbs of Livingston. Like, listen, guys, like get that rap a little tighter, will you?
No, it's interesting. I think
You know
a lot of people in your position probably feel that way. As you were talking about your journey, there were some things that it would have been impossible for you to do when you were 25 or 30 years old.
Yeah.
Just you didn't have the wisdom. You
100%.
didn't have, that maturity
Yes.
as part of it. So I think that those who ultimately become successful are those who are able to ride that journey out
100%.
until you reach that point where you can be in a room with people. I'm really calling the shots here. Like, these are the superstars, but yet you possess those qualities, those abilities that they need to become successful. So it's like you hold the key to
And
that.
that's the funny thing about your show is that it's so interesting because if I were to do all this now over next, right? If I were to start this journey now, it would be stellar. But that's not how life works.
not how it
Well,
works.
what does that actually mean? Define stellar.
It would be calm, controlled, concise.
Is life that way?
It's not. That's the whole
But
point. My problem was when it went into the mayhem, into the chaos, I went with the chaos, and I got chaotic. Today, I'd be like, oh, whoa. I never did this. Slow down. Hang on a second. I never did this. Maybe it's me. I wasn't able to do that at 20 years old. Today, I say to Jane all the time, maybe it's me. Think about that. That's a big statement in any relationship. Say, maybe I'm the one who's messing up here.
Most people don't take responsibility
Right.
for their decisions.
Right.
But sometimes those decisions, they're not necessarily right or wrong. They just are what is right in front of you.
Yes. But sometimes they're emotional, is what I'm trying to say. And when I've made these emotional choices, for instance, they took my name out of the movie Wild Wild West because there was disagreement on the publishing splits. And I got so upset, and I called Will Smith's manager in a rage. I was like, what? Today, I'd be like, dude, come on. You see the difference? As opposed to, what the F did you? And he was like, click. I'm like, ooh, well, that didn't work. That's what I mean in terms of the maturity.
Your approach.
And this where I'm at in my life now, it's like, I get it. I finally get it, but it's not that anymore. Now it's the next thing, right? So it's okay, because now hopefully you apply it to the next thing.
So where were you both in your lives before you decided to collaborate on Chasing Tornadoes?
Great question.
So right before, I have 2 children, so I was very busy still with them, and I was very busy taking care of my mother who was dying and who was battling her battle with cancer. So when she passed, that's when I called him and I said, we need to make music. I've always been very busy in terms of singing. It always kind of came ancillary to me because me being a mother was always first. I was in a very popular group in the tri-state area, and we worked constantly. But I loved that job because I got to sing. Maybe not all the music I liked to sing.
What group?
It's called The Infernos. I was with them for a long time. I was always able to come home, put the kids to bed, or at least be there in the morning. I was a stay-at-home mom, and then I made music at night. In jazz clubs and all these wonderful things, but where we were on 2 very different paths for several decades. So having it come together, the impetus of it was my mother's passing. Because I hadn't seen him physically in years. We always kept in touch, but I hadn't physically seen him in years. And he, Jane, and his brother Mark, they walk into the wake. And I was just so happy to see him and them. 3 days later, I called him up and I said, we have to do something.
That's so special. So how do you want to be remembered?
These are great questions.
Rob Fosari, the man, and Rob Fosari, the musician.
Right. I want to be remembered as he came with consistency all the time, as opposed to once in a while he can get a good song or a great. I want to be that consistent producer or writer that every time you come to me, you're getting something that's,
Well,
Like,
don't you think you've come home with Chasing Tornadoes?
yes, yes.
As a new beginning?
Yes, I think it is. I think that is present in my life now. Yes, in this next phase, 100%. The part as a person is the part that I had to work on, and I am working on, is being selfless and kind. The music business, I don't want to say it made me, but it kind of pushed me in a direction that wasn't really me. I went with it because it just felt like that's what you need to do. And your integrity is at stake a lot.
Sure.
Because everyone's loving you, and everyone walks in a room, and their attention is on you. And, Rob, what can I do for you? Rob, blah, blah, blah. It's this kind of mystique, and it's not the real world. You know, but you think it's the real world. So when I would go home, and someone would be like, you got to take out the trash. I'm like, what? Take out the trash? I just sold 6 million records. What do you mean take out the... It was messing with my head. I'm like, you guys don't think I'm a star. And I'm like, no, we don't. They'd be like, what? Well, then I shouldn't be here.
Right.
But that's insane. Like, my family should think they shouldn't think I'm a star. But I was so caught in
But
my head.
they
I'm
do.
like, they do in their own way, right? But they still got to take out the trash, dude. That it kind of clouded me into thinking, wait, I'm coming back as this celebrity now. You guys got to respect that, don't you? It turns you upside down, as you can imagine, because you don't want to come back to the reality of it. Somebody said something to me once that, because I struggled with, like, you know, some artists that went on to do great things and then they wouldn't speak to me anymore. And they said, sometimes those artists don't want to remember their lives prior to being that celebrity.
Right.
And you are that. Cinderella's not going back to the house washing the floors. She wants to stay at the ball. I'm like, oh.
That's interesting, yeah.
Right. So.
You represent that. Yeah.
Right.
And what about you, Robin? How do you want to be remembered?
So I feel like I'm halfway there. When I die, I feel like the funeral line is going to be wrapped around the building several times. I try very hard to care about other people's thoughts. So I feel like the kindness aspect of what I want to achieve, I am achieving. But the musician side of me, I haven't reached the top of the mountain yet because of the choices that I made in my life. And I thought that it was over, being that I'm going to be 50. You know, I felt like, okay, well, I've had enough experiences and I've done this, I've done that, I've made wonderful music, but I wasn't done. And just because you're going to be 50 doesn't mean that you're done. And so that part of the equation is not okay with me yet. I need to achieve more with my talents. I believe that my talents deserve to achieve more. And I believe that timing is everything. And now all of a sudden, I'm seeing life as this new chapter instead of the ending of it all. You know?
I love everything you just said. So
There were bells going off in my head. I don't know, Holly, if it was dinging
I loved
there.
everything you said. So what's next for Robin? Chasing Tornadoes is truly just the beginning. You may have discussed earlier about wanting to be on Broadway, and this is the beginning of that possibility. Your friendship has been a common denominator. Music has been such a vibrant part of your lives. As you continue your journeys in music and life, what is next for you, individually, personally, and professionally?
We're going all the way, baby. We're
Well,
going all the way.
We want to hear it here first.
Well, you know, the funny part about that question is that I thought I was done, right? And I thought only good things could happen when I was younger, right? The blank pages, I called it. They were the blank pages I didn't have anymore. But Chasing Tornadoes changed that when I didn't think it could change. And I'll never forget driving home from the first show with Jane. She asked, how do you feel? And I said, Jane, I've had Grammys, #1 songs, millions of records sold. It doesn't even come close to this. So for that to have happened at 56 years old, I was such an idiot thinking I was done. It was all leading to that. You know what I mean? I didn't realize, like, you know, like somebody said, like, I've been working on this show my whole life and not knowing it.
Right.
It was all leading here, and life is like, that's what life.
The Yellow Brick Road.
Yes, that's the reason to hang on. Everyone will tell you, I retired. Don't talk to me about music. I don't even want to hear music. But when Robin made that call to me, I was like, I got it. She's never asked me for anything. So how can I not do this?
Sure.
So I'm like, all right. Little did I know that I'm thinking I'm helping her. She was helping me. She was bringing me back to life, in a sense. It's like I always say to her, I've seen some amazing rises to fame and fortune, but she's already there. Because when she gets what she wants, and she will, she's going to look back at this time and say, oh my God, that was it. It's right now. Because it gets crazy after you get too successful. I got interviews, I got a photo shoot, and then you lose the music. This is it. We're in it at this very second.
That's right.
The prize is here. Life's not going to go ding, ding, ding. Here's the prize. Ding, you got to watch me. Life just gives it to you. You got to figure it out.
Such an important realization.
So it gets me emotional when he talks like that because it's so true. I wanted to punch everybody in the face that would tell me, enjoy the journey. Like, what a cliche, enjoy the journey. Yeah. Well, I can't because I didn't get what I wanted yet. You know what I mean? And you get one life. And we're sitting here and now we're in it. And I would have been so much more kinder to myself along the way if I would have known that at 49 it's going to happen for you, Robin. At 49. So just enjoy your 30s and stop putting so much pressure on yourself.
Right.
What is happening here is I need a better word for it because it's more than magical. It's transcending. I cannot put it in words, but I do know that it's cosmic. I do know that it was sent to me from my mother, his father, my parents. There is something special brewing and evolving. We do not stop working on it. It's growing. It's like a baby that we're watching grow. Yeah. And we could not be happier where we are today. I just want to say thank you for realizing that this project is so applicable to your show, because if I could give that message to especially women, be kind to yourself. And it will happen if you don't give up. What if he did retire? What if I did say, oh, I'm too old? What if I didn't make that phone call?
Erase the what ifs.
Life is scary.
It doesn't have to be. When you follow your heart and your talents and you know you have a gift to share with others. I'm a big fan of musical theater. I am transported when I am in a theater. And I feel that what you shared, it is a personal story, but it has so many connections to others and the lives they're leading. And I think that that's something that people will come away from and reflect on and think about and kind of put it into perspective on what could be for them.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
So.
Well, thank you both for being with us today. This was really great to be able to enjoy your performances and to be so on target for what we're talking about. I say it all the time. I hope nobody's getting tired of it, but there's no coincidence.
Yeah.
So thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Well, that was really great. Really enjoyed having them on the podcast. Robin shared a clip with us, and we wanted to share it with you.
1977. I was 9 years old. I fell in love with the piano. Came home from school on that warm April day, and something was pulling me into the living room. Something magical happened that day. A secret door opened. I now knew why I was here. Within a year's time, I went from chopsticks to Chopin. From Livingston, New Jersey, to New York's own Carnegie Hall. My dream now had a voice.
I was 8 years old when my mother took me to my first Broadway show. I'll never forget it. I was sitting up in the mezzanine at the Gershwin Theater, and when the overture began, my body actually felt like it was levitating. There were tears in my eyes, and I didn't know why, but all I knew was that this was where I was meant to be. And dreams were all I had.
These dreams go on when I close my eyes. Every second of the night, I live another life. These dreams that sleep when it's cold outside. 'Cause every moment I'm awake, the further I'm away. Every moment I'm away, the further I'm away.
We really did enjoy the show, and we really hope that this is something that resonates with people and takes off.
Well, it's something everyone can relate to, Robert. Right?
sure.
They're the twists and turns of life that we all encounter in life.
And it was great retrospective to their use of multimedia.
It took us down
Took
the
us-
yellow brick
took
road.
the yellow brick road, you know.
Of our
really
lives, the decades of our
Yeah,
lives.
and it's not until you kind of see all of that laid out in front of you and you realize how much time has passed. And
But importantly, it was a big message. People you love never leave you. And they
Yeah.
guide you. They guide you safely along the way.
Yeah, it's good to come home.
That was a big theme.
Right.
Home. I love that because that's mattered a lot to us, Robert.
Right,
I
and
mean, we
it's-
lived in Livingston for 30 years together.
Yes,
We started in
explained.
Bayonne, where
We
you met
did.
Jane.
When you look at our episode with Jackie, when we talk about home, the definition of home, and really home is where we are together,
Right.
our family, and that becomes our home. But it's so funny for some people, and we see this time and time again in our own lives, when family is nearby, things are different. The visits don't become as monumental, they get granular. It's the everyday, it's the regular things that really become important. We talked about when couples would get married and have a baby and have a video camera. This doesn't apply now because we all have video camera, but keep it nearby so you get the everyday stuff. And it's the everyday of being able to spend time and coming home and being home. And I think when you talk to Rob, I think being home for him is kind of what saved him.
Well, it's meaningful. And in Chasing Tornadoes, they share their fears and their struggles. And they shared a bit of that today on today's episode. We will include a link in the show notes to Chasing Tornadoes. We will include links to all of the songs that Rob has been a part of because I think it's pretty impressive and he's pretty humble about it.
These
Been
are
with,
superstars.
well,
that,
Destiny's Child, which was when he worked with Beyonce, right?
and
Britney Spears,
Kelly
Whitney
Rowland
Houston, Lady Gaga, Will Smith.
Right.
And
His
it
song
goes,
Paparazzi, Lady Gaga, that's his song.
they're both singers. He's an incredible pianist. And I
wait,
love that they share this via song and story.
And to talk about how modest he is, because when you think about the lineup of people that he worked with, like for everybody to not know about him widespread, to me is just mind-boggling. That we didn't know more about him while we were in Livingston. And even knowing the family, he was just so low-key and about the music. And when you have natural ability, and that comes out when you watch him as a performer, as playing the piano, like it's a very natural thing.
Oh, and there's so much joy. I mean, after today's episode, I think everybody is going to want to follow Robin and see what
Listen,
what
I
is
think
next
it's,
for them.
I think it's fantastic when they alluded to this. As much as he has done so much
and a lot
in
of
his
people,
career, and
that's fame
Robin
and
has done
fame.
so much, and raising a family, and still being able to perform, and being with the Infernos, and going to events, and do. This is a new beginning for them.
They missed not having music in their lives together.
Yeah,
And this is the beginning of their next chapter.
it is. It is, and the reason that it's happening for them is, I believe, is because they were open to it. They were open to the universe at work. And
this is their life
and went with
calling.
it.
There
Yeah.
is no question. They are an incredible talent.
and they recognize it. That's the difference, you know.
A big thank you and shout out to Jane for connecting us all because that's how
Jane's a
things
good
happen.
connector.
An
Jane's a
awesome
good
connector. And this is evidence of that because this story gives me so much pride and joy in sharing. So we are thrilled to have guests like Robin sharing their Between Over and Next moments.
And we're looking forward to seeing another performance of Chasing Tornadoes because it's the kind of production that is kind of evolving a bit, right? Is finding that sweet spot. And it's exciting to watch, dare I say, new talent, fresh talent, refreshed talent, like these two.
We share what we care about, and we love being in a theater and enjoying what is going to be shared on that stage, because often you walk through the door one way and you leave differently. And I did. I knew that this was the perfect fit for our podcast.
Yeah, so we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will be following Rob and Robin and Chasing Tornadoes and seeing what their next big thing is, what the next move will be.
So treat yourself to their next wonderful performance of Chasing Tornadoes or whatever they produce in the future.
Yeah. And thank you for joining us here on Between Over and Next. We really do appreciate you tuning in and sharing your feedback with us. If you're so inclined, we would love for you to leave a review. And we look forward to having you here with us next time. Thanks for tuning in to Between Over and Next. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it meaningful and insightful.
If you value it to be worthwhile, please share it with your friends and family.
We would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to write a review for us. Your feedback will help us continue to create content that resonates with you.
And don't forget, in the show notes, you can find all the relevant links mentioned in this episode, from accessing free downloads to visiting our website and more.
If you have any questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. Simply send us an email. Our email address is hello@hollyandrobert.com. We're always excited to connect with our listeners.
So until next time, thank you again for joining us on Between Over and Next.
Thank you for listening to Between Over and Next, the podcast that navigates the twists and turns of life with courage, laughter, and a whole lot of inspiration. Tune in every Tuesday to hang out with Holly and Robert on your favorite podcast platform. Visit hollyandrobert.com and follow them on social media to ignite your passion and fuel your dreams.